Hi, and welcome to the Shared Leadership and Tactical Planning. I am Sable Kerwin, the Senior Specialist of Distributed Leadership Design, and I'll be your facilitator during this asynchronous professional development. During this PD, you will need either an electronic or paper copy of the online journal on slide 2. Pause the video so you can gather the material that best fits your learning. For an inclusive welcome today, I invite you to write about an effective leader that inspires you. It can be someone that you currently work with or that you've worked with in the past. It can also be someone who has led you in other formal or informal spaces, such as a family member, friend, or a member of an organization or place of worship. Within your story, consider what core value makes them an effective leader. Pause the video and take 3 minutes to write. To continue your thought process about effective leaders, I now invite you to shift your mind to consider the core values that make you an effective leader. This core value could be one of the DPS core values or a value that you feel best resonates with you. Pause the video and take about 3 minutes to write. Our learning today will help further your skill as an effective leader. This PD is designed to help you deepen your understanding of the shared leadership in DPS and build a sample schedule that identifies goals for your work and indicators for success, while also clearly defining your role and responsibility. To provide a roadmap to your success on this goal, here is an agenda for today. Pause the video to familiarize yourself with this agenda, and when you're ready, please resume. We also want to provide you with a set of norms that we provide during our synchronous session, as it may help remind you to stay open to concepts and ideas as you internalize your work. Our first focus today is going to be on the vision and roles of DPS shared leadership. Take a moment to look at the graphic on this slide. Notice that while some living organisms live only in the land zones and some organisms live in aquatic zones, there are some that can thrive in both. Consider this as you step into the world of being a teacher leader, where you can draw upon your understanding and experiences as both a teacher and a leader. What can your new role as a teacher leader draw from the teacher world? What can it draw from the leader world? And how might this position allow you to have a significant impact on your students, school, and community? Pause the video and jot your thoughts now, and resume when you're ready. Before we begin planning your new role, it's important to know where the concept of teacher leadership began. When DPS's model of shared leadership, called Teacher, Leader, and Collaboration, began in 2013-14, DPS was looking for a way to improve on traditional structures in schools where principals and assistant principals were responsible for coaching and evaluating all teachers, regardless of content area. In a traditional model, teachers receive infrequent feedback, often from a supervisor who did not share their content expertise, and more often in an evaluative rather than a formative or developmental format. This structure can be seen on this graphic. As a system, our shared leadership structure reflects our values. We are a district committed to breaking down historical patterns of inequity, and this shift to shared leadership model breaks down hierarchical structures in favor of a structure that amplifies the excellence and expertise of many leaders within a building. Shared leadership model also reflects our DPS shared core values of promoting collaboration, accountability, and integrity to ensure that students and teachers have the support they need to thrive. If you've taught or led in a DPS school, you may have experienced the shared leadership model that looks something like the one on the screen. Through teacher leadership and collaboration, teachers are organized into small teams, usually by grade level or content, that share collaborative time for DDI, professional learning, and or backwards planning, and receive regular feedback, observations, and evaluations from their senior team lead, AP, dean, or principal. In this model, you can see how a team specialist, represented by the orange circle, might lead a team or sub-team of teachers in a collaborative time like DDI, planning, or some other kind of professional learning. The intent of this model is to greatly increase the support to our teachers, especially compared to the model where the principal supports everyone. Small teams mean more frequent feedback and support from the knowledgeable peer or leader. And more support means more growth for the teacher, which means more growth for our kids. Part of the beauty of TLC is that each school shared leadership model looks different depending on the needs of the school. Schools have the flexibility to decide how their teams are organized, how many senior team or team lead, team specialist, or new teacher ambassador roles they will have, and how their leadership roles will collaborate. Year over year, DPS teachers tell us that the teacher leadership and collaboration significantly grows them as professionals. Every year, over 80% of teachers report that their practices have improved as a result of working with a teacher leader, and teachers who work with teacher leaders are more likely to be retained. Most importantly, teachers report that teacher leaders help them realize the results of their students. In your role this year, you will have the opportunity to lead from your values and influence the mindsets and behaviors in pursuit of a similar transformational growth for teachers and students. This is a past visual, but it outlines the instructional support and systems that might exist in your school. Pause the video to unpack this graphic, considering how you might experience it as a teacher leader. What you might notice in this visual that it shows people responsible for either fulfilling or supporting specific needs within the school in order to create, maintain, and improve the system ultimately created to support the success of our students. This is the current visual we use to describe the purpose of TLC shared leadership structures, as it focuses on the outcomes of both professional learning and the professional learning communities that we create in each school to uniquely support the needs of the whole child. Instead of focusing on the who and the what, as we saw in the other graphic, this graphic focuses on the how each role supports culturally and linguistically responsive planning and teaching observation, which includes feedback and coaching, and assessment, analysis, and adjustments, which includes multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS. Rather than siloing the work to either belonging to the teacher, teacher leader, or administrator, this graphic shows the concept that we are all responsible for these major pillars that support the whole child, and each school is able to create a system that supports the needs of their students and community. Pause the video to consider how your skills and values and experiences you bring will strengthen your team that you're supporting. Now that we have an idea of what DPS shared leadership is and its goal, we are going to move forward in considering your school and personal goals. As an educator, we know the value of creating a goal, as it helps us name our goal by being intentional, monitoring our work, and being reflective on our feedback. One of the most important key takeaways from this lesson will be that you leave the session with a goal that you can use to guide your teacher leadership work this year. We encourage you to share this goal with your leader and coachees in order to set clear intentions and also be reflective about your position throughout the year. We invite you to take 5 minutes to create a first draft of your goal, but don't worry, we will be returning to these goals throughout the session to make adjustments as you gain more understanding about your role. We want you to start with what you currently know, and we can make revisions along the way. We have also provided the following questions to help guide your thinking. We also want to provide you with an example if it's helpful. If I was in a school that was focused on growing students through feedback and I was a motivated leader in equity, my goal might sound something like this. As a future building leader focused on equity, I will learn about our current process of instructional and DEI practices and work collaboratively to implement and/or improve our models in the benefit of all learners. Notice that I have color-coded where I used my goal. I have color-coded where I used my goal values, leadership goals, and UIP goals to create my overall goal. You don't need to color code your goal, but you can if it's helpful. Take 5 minutes to create the first draft of your goal now. You may resume this video when you're ready. Now that we've created the first draft of your goal, now let's learn more about your role and responsibilities to further understand what is in store for you this coming year and to build upon your goal. As a teacher leader, you will be evaluated officially on LEAP for both your teacher and leadership role, and your leadership work will be captured in P7 of LEAP. Additionally, the teacher leadership and scope and sequence is a non-evaluative tool for current and aspiring teacher leaders and can be used to support the formative growth and development in the leader part of your role. If you look to the side, you will see the competencies are exactly aligned to DPS LEAD framework, which outlines competencies for DPS leadership roles for senior team leads, deans, APs, and principals. To support that shared understanding, let's dig into the details for what your role will look like. You will find that your role will look different depending on your school or role. The descriptions intentionally leave some space for managers to design roles that meet the needs of the unique context. Reviewing the job description before building your onboarding plan will help you have some context about what your role will entail. Take a minute to review the job description, which will be linked in your learning space. Underline the role, parts of the role that align to your understanding, and circulating the parts of the description that you have questions about so that you can follow up with your manager. Then review the description again, considering your core values. Which responsibilities are most aligned and most energize you? Star those. And which are most challenging? Put a delta next to those. Pause the video and take 5 minutes to annotate your role. Hopefully, as a part of this selection process, you had the opportunity to understand the role that you have been selected for. Here are some additional guiding questions to help you get specific about your role and what it looks like. As you reflect on these questions, you might have some questions about these questions. This is a great opportunity to ensure you and your manager are on the same page about what your work will look like. Pause the video and take 5 minutes to review these questions. Spend a few minutes reviewing the TL scope and sequence, reflecting on the skills and strengths you bring to the role and what competencies you would want to focus on in the developing year. Remember, this guide is a progression. Take a moment to look across the full spectrum. You might find that you're already really strong in competencies under a senior team lead, while you might be have a more foundational place with the competencies under aspiring. Finding yourself at different points across the spectrum for different competencies is okay. Once you take stock in your strengths and opportunities to develop, you'll be able to target the competencies for your professional learning plan that best set you and your teachers and students and support up for success. Spend a few minutes reviewing the TL scope and sequence, reflecting on what skills and strengths you bring to this role and what competencies you would want to focus on developing the first year. Remember, this guide is a progression. Take a moment to look across the full spectrum. Oop. Now that you've had a chance to look at the job description and the scope and sequence, take another 3 minutes to adjust your goal as you see fit. In 3 minutes, we are going to take a 5-minute break to allow you some flexibility to take care of yourself or continue adding to your goal based on the information you are invested in. If you'd like to take a break right now, take about 5 minutes and come back. All right. Now that we've curated a goal that includes your current leadership vision, using your core values, leadership goals supported with your teacher scope and sequence, and your school's major goals, we are now going to shift your focus in creating a sample schedule of your week in order to determine how you will prioritize tasks with time. For a brief warm-up, we ask you to step out of your school hat as both a teacher and a leader for a moment and look at this hypothetical person's schedule after work. For your ease, this person has put their children's needs in green, their family needs in purple, and their personal needs in gray. Take a moment to determine, what does this person value? And if this person told you they wanted to spend more time with their partner, what would you suggest? Looking at this calendar, you might identify that this person prioritizes their children's activities, consistency for dinner time, and or including a little time each day for themselves. However, if this person wants to spend more time with their partner, you might suggest distributing some of the children's activities to their partner in order to take care of some of their personal time and free up some space to spend time with their partner. The point of this activity was to identify what Stephen Covey identifies here in this quote. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. When you are creating your schedule, we are going to have to reflect on this idea, but before we do, let's look at one more example of schedules to help you further consider areas of focus when building your calendar. On the next couple of slides are examples of senior team lead schedules from last year. On slide 31 and 32 is an example of an elementary STL schedule who coaches 8 people and is the ISA team lead at their school. They have broken their schedule into a week A, which will be found on slide 31, and week B, which will be found on slide 32, in order to appropriately address all of their duties. On slide 33 and 34, you will find an example of a high school STL schedule who coaches 4 people, who has also broken their schedule down to a week A, slide 33, and week B, slide 34. I want to note that an A-B schedule isn't required, but it is one way to solve balance for your caseload if you find that a weekly schedule does not allow you to address all your duties effectively. For this activity, take 2 minutes to find the schedule that best relates to your schedule and determine, what does this person prioritize? Do you think this person is set up for success as a leader? And if this was your calendar, what would you advocate for? Pause the video now and resume when you're ready. When you were looking at these calendars, you may have identified that the elementary STL prioritizes meeting with their caseload equally every 2 weeks by observing, coaching, and observing again. They also prioritize observations every 3 days, or they also prioritize supervision every day, 3 times a day, which leaves little time for this STL to plan or draft feedback or prepare for the ISA meeting. We might suggest that if this was someone's schedule, that they would advocate to share the balance of supervision duties with another leader or group of teachers to value their time it takes to effectively plan for coaching and ISA meetings. For the secondary STL, the schedule seems to be much more balanced. As noted on the top, this person's schedule does not allow them to meet with teacher 4 during the day for feedback conversations. This might be a consideration to either change schedules or caseloads, or think of a third way to meet with this teacher in collaboration with a school leader. Now it's time to build your schedule with your priorities. We have included a couple of things for you to consider when you are building your schedule. As a reminder, it's okay to not know some of these things right now, but it should be a conversation before the beginning of the school year with your leadership team. In your packet, you will find a starter schedule template If that doesn't work for you, please feel free to create your schedule as it supports your understanding. It is suggested that you take about 20 minutes to build your schedule. Pause this video and create your schedule now. Now that you've created your schedule, take time to reflect. How does your time reflect your goal? Do you need to adjust your time to reflect what you prioritize? Our final activity today is to prepare for a meeting with your principal about your role. In your meeting, you will want to share your goal, a rationale of how you will utilize your time, address any concerns while offering solutions, and any other questions that you might have about your role. It isn't mandatory for you to have a meeting with your principal, but it is highly encouraged as it will help you as a leader see your current vision for the role and allow your leader to work in collaboration with you to build your leadership capacity as you respond to any concerns or questions collaboratively. As we close today, we want to invite you to submit your goal and your calendar here. This will help us better support teacher leaders and leadership within buildings as we continue to help better plan for distributed leadership district-wide. This slide is your attendance form in order to get paid. Please submit this at the end of the session, and if you have any issues at all signing in or have any other teacher leadership related questions, feel free to email teacherleadership@dpsk12.net. We end this session with an intentional closure with this quote. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that your impact lasts in your absence. I hope today's session was informative and that you know that we are always here to support. Thank you for joining us for shared leadership and tactical planning.